Hi everyone. So today on Original Pagan, we're going to be looking at Sanatana Dharma explained simply for non-Hindus by expert Swami Purnachaitanya. I'm sorry if I got that wrong. I'm trying, guys. I'm trying. There's no way I'm going to be able to pronounce these things this quickly into my journey of learning more about Hinduism and other spiritualities on this new channel. This is by TRS Clips, link down below. For those of you coming to this channel for the first time, this is a new channel. It's not my main channel. I have a other channel called Original Human. It's got over 500,000 subscribers, millions and millions and millions of views, hundreds of millions of views, nearly billions of views, actually. And I released 3 videos last year about Hinduism, just kind of learning about it because I was interested. And it got so much love that I decided to make this channel. So if you're not already, please subscribe. This is new. Let's get this channel up and running. The only way that I will carry on making videos on this channel is if it receives the love that it needs to be sustainable, right? So if it has that love that it needs, then I will keep doing these videos. It's as simple as that. Obviously, I have the main channel that I need to put a lot of effort into. I've got another business that I'm working on right now that I've got to put a lot of effort into. And so if you want this channel to grow and you want this to become a new thing, then don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to like, share it with your friends and all that good stuff. So yeah, I'll leave a link down below to the original video here. Obviously, for me being in the West, being in England, it's just known as Hinduism, right? But I guess the real name is Sanatana Dharma. Sanatana Dharma. And I think that might be how you say it. I might be butchering it there. And this is a video. It's quite a long video. Nearly 23 minutes, this, by TRS Clips. This is a podcast. I've watched some of his stuff before. Yeah, and I guess we're just going to learn. I don't know if this is going to be in English or not. I'll leave my head up here a little bit. Usually I'll leave my head up here if there's subtitles, and I'll bring it down here if there's not. I don't think there'll actually be subtitles. I think this will be in English, actually. But let's learn. I'm here to learn, right? That's the whole point of this channel. So let's learn more about Hinduism. Happiness through curiosity on the Randy Show.
How do you explain Sanatana Dharma, Hinduism, Shiva?
Well, he said it then. He said it.
How do you explain Sanatana Dharma, Hinduism?
He says it so quick. Sanatana Dharma. Sanatana Dharma? Is that correct? I've got an English accent. It just doesn't work, does it?
Shiva. These concepts, mantras to your friends back home. Have you ever tried?
Yeah. I'm nowadays, I've spent the last 2 years more in Europe, and I've actually done like big tours like Netherlands, UK, Denmark, Germany, so many places.
I want to know who this guy is before we get properly started. Who is this guy? He has a wiki page. He was born in the Netherlands. He's Dutch. He's a little bit older than myself. He's a life coach, public speaker. He works at the Art of Living Foundation in Bangalore, India. Teaches yoga around India and abroad. He's a member of the art. Yeah. Cool. Okay, so I guess he's a spokesperson for Hinduism. Oh wait, I apologize. Sanatana Dharma. At the age of 16, he met Sri Ravi. Oh, I've seen that guy before. Interesting. So he's been involved with this at such a young age then, hasn't he? Okay.
Where I even conducted masterclasses on, say, mantras or secrets of karma, all these kind of topics.
Imagine I'm someone who's born and raised in Europe, and I've never heard of these things. How do you explain all these things to me? Because
That's me. He's talking about me. How do you explain this to Luke? How do you explain it to him?
Perception of God is what I have heard since childhood. I've never even heard of Shiva, hypothetically speaking. Because the thing is, when you grow up in India, you take these things for granted. Oh yeah, Shiva. Oh yeah, Vishnu. Oh yeah, mantras. Yeah, we know what that is. That's because you're born in this culture. What about the people outside? How do you explain the 101 of this?
So, for example, when you talk about Shiva or any Devata, how I introduce it, that I say that I tell them a little bit about the rishis, no? That in India, ancient times, they had sages, saints, who went into a deep state of meditation where their intuition became so clear that by taking their attention to something, the knowledge of that would unfold itself. And then I tell them, of course, this sounds a little abstract, but to give an example, we have these scriptures on astrology, astronomy, Ayurveda, so much, where we have practical knowledge, where, for example, they spoke about the different moons of Saturn, even though our modern telescopes have only been able to physically confirm or perceive that in the last few decades. But then they realized that whatever was written in these scriptures is spot on, it's correct. They spoke about the world being round thousands of years ago. No, Bhugol. Even if you see some of these statues and descriptions where the Varaha avatar, where Vishnu lifted the earth from the waters, they say earth was round. And in the West, they only found out a few hundred years ago when you keep sailing and you don't fall off. It sounds very bad to put it like that, but to put it bluntly. So
he's saying, and I want to skip back to something he said at the start there. He said that there were people who were meditating on this and they slowly started to... It's really hard as someone who has grown up in the West, grown up in a family that is pretty much an atheist family. I consider myself a pagan now, and I believe in more of like an animistic way of looking at the world. That's my personal viewpoint. And so I'm trying to wrap my head around this as someone from that standard where I just didn't grow up with this kind of knowledge or culture around me, like you were saying at the beginning. And so it's hard for me to wrap my head around this.
Had this knowledge of Ayurveda, of so many things, but that knowledge was downloaded, you can say, from the universal consciousness, or it was intuitive knowledge. And so I said that they had this knowledge of how to go deep into meditation, to clear their mind to such an extent that they were able to tap into that. And then when we talk about mantras and devatas, I said there are so many different types of mantras. The knowledge of mantras also came from the rishis. And to such an extent that the definition of the word rishi is a mantra drashta. It's one who has seen the mantra, who has perceived the mantra. It's not a mantra karta. It's not the one who has created it. So like how we had, people know this story maybe from school, Newton, and the law of gravity, where he was sitting under a tree, one apple fell and he figured out. So Newton did not see something fall for the first time. Things keep falling all the time, even apples. He would have seen it so many times. But at that moment, if the story is true as it is told, he was sitting under the tree, he was chilling, he was very peaceful. He saw one apple fall down, and at that moment, his mind, his intuition was so clear that he did not just see the apple fall, he also saw that there is a principle behind it that is causing this apple to fall. And then he was able to work it out as what we now know as the law of gravity in physics. And because he was able to do that, now any of us can use that, and people are using it.
So he's saying that if you take that and extrapolate it, that's how people started to realize about Sanatana Dharma, Hinduism. Is that what he's saying?
So in the similar way, not exactly same, you could say that he was the rishi of the law of gravity, because he didn't create gravity, he didn't invent it, but he was able to perceive it so clearly and then share it in such a way that we can use it. Now, of course, in the Vedic scriptures also they talk about gravity and all that already. That's a different thing. But the point is that the rishis were able to perceive these mantras in that state of meditation where they say, okay, these sounds have this kind of impact, definite specific impact on our body, on our mind, on the environment. And they shared that. And the beauty is that they said, okay, there is one universal consciousness or one substratum of this creation, but there are all kinds of vibrations. Now, if you look at string theory also, it's vibration, it's energy that is vibrating in so many ways. So these natural forces or these universal cosmic energies, they call it devatas.
So I'm trying to keep up. And and I know a lot of people might be rolling your eyes if you're watching this, if you already know this stuff, but I honestly don't know anything about it. And so he talks about the Vedas. Is that what he's saying? Let me do some Googling real quick. Is it the Vedas? I guess so they're books, right? Vedas are a large body of religious texts originating in ancient India, composed of the Vedic Sanskrit. Okay. Is this something that I should read if I want to know more about this then? I just honestly feel like I don't even know where to start. Like, obviously this channel is dedicated to not just Hinduism, but all sorts of different spiritualities and religions and stuff like that. And so it's a lot of dedication to put this much time and effort into reading something for it to not be the right thing to read. Does that make sense? And so it's almost as if it's like if I'm going to read something and learn more about this, then I want to make sure that I get it right the first time. So there's obviously like a creation myth. And it's a case of how did people learn about that creation myth? And he's saying that people who sat in silence and concentrated for long enough that it unfolded and they started to realize what was going on. Which is weird if you think about it, because a lot of stuff in Hinduism is unfolding in science, right? Like there's a lot of stuff that happens in science and people are like, yeah, we've been saying this for years in Hinduism. It's just crazy, isn't it?
So they say a mantra invokes a certain energy or resonates with a certain frequency, and they call it a devata. And then you can have Ganesha, or you can have Shiva, or there are so many. And then usually I explain a little bit about Ganesha, for example, that, you know, at some point they started depicting these devatas because it became a little difficult for people to relate to something as abstract as a cosmic energy. You know? In the ancient days, they had yagyashalas. They used to worship with mantras. They didn't have all the murtis and everything yet. The temples, the mandirs, as we see it now, in those days, it was not the same. The rishis had yagyashalas. But then at some point for people, it became very abstract, not just a mantra. So
So he's saying that they had to kind of put a face to an energy, right? Like he's saying that, and I've heard of this before in paganism, where some people would view, like if someone's, I don't know, like a Norse pagan or a Celtic pagan, they would take them gods from that paganism. So let's say like Thor or Odin or you know, any pagan god. Let's stick to the Norse ones for now, right? Like Balder and all that lot. And instead of being like they were actually people, that they're just a certain energy, a certain kind of aspect of the world, and that's why you worship that certain entity. And that, in my opinion, kind of goes with my viewpoint of animism. When it comes to animism, I have a very much a world, like a conscious world viewpoint, where I think that the world has, like, it's almost as if, how do you define something that's alive? And in my opinion, it's someone that has stories behind it and that has been in people's lives, and it's been around for a long time, and many other reasons that I won't get into it. And so it almost sits with that same viewpoint, doesn't it? That these cosmic energies, and they've turned abstract so they can put a face to them, aligns more with my animism than anything else, actually, doesn't it? And I've heard a lot of connection between Druidry, which is something that I follow quite a bit, and Hinduism. There's a lot of overlap between the two. Not a crazy amount, but quite a substantial amount, where it's almost a bit like, all right, there's something a bit more to this. So yeah, I think I understand this aspect to it quite, you know, not personally. I understand this one a bit better, I think.
Said, okay, how to make a visual depiction of what this energy does.
Yeah.
So if we say Ganesha, elephant head, well, one of the reasons is because it gives you that knowledge, awareness, that full awareness, all this knowledge. So to put all that knowledge and awareness, you need a very big head. Otherwise, it doesn't fit. Now, what's the biggest head you could find? Okay, elephant. No, there's no animal that was walking. Dinosaurs were gone already. So what has the biggest head? Okay, elephant.
That makes sense.
And there are many things, like it has a trunk, right? Ganesha has an elephant head has a trunk. And that has two functions. It's a karmendriya. It is something with which you can grasp, you can act, organ of action. It's also a jnanendriya. It's something with which you can perceive, you can gain knowledge. So where action and knowledge come together, move together, that is one of the things that Ganesha symbolizes. Because if you want to prevent obstacles or problems, or you want to resolve them, solve them, you need to have the right knowledge of what is the problem, what is the solution, but you also need to act. Because there are many people who know how things should be. They can keep complaining, government should do this, people should do that, but sitting at home and having all this knowledge is no good if you don't act. And some people will be very active, but if they don't have the right knowledge how to go about it, you can, overthrow a dictator. But if there's no plan B, you get chaos. No, the situation becomes worse.
Yeah.
So then you can explain to people that, okay, for example, if we make it very simple, Ganesha or Ganapati is that energy or is the mantra that kindles this quality in you where you get that broader understanding, the knowledge, as well as the right action to overcome your problems or to prevent them. So
it's interesting that they've had to put a face towards it, isn't it? It's interesting how humans work in that sense, isn't it?
we've just touched upon a few things, but that way I explained that, they had a beautiful way to depict it. So all these descriptions, and you've had podcasts with people who've spoken about it in detail, how even different forms of Ganapati, for example, represent specific aspects, whether he is standing, sitting, lying down. You have a Shakti Ganapati and so many things. And each of them is like a visual, you can say, user manual for those specific mantras, that those who have been at least taught a little bit about these things, just by seeing that description or hearing the description, then, oh, he's holding this kind of weapon, or he's sitting on this kind of vahana, vehicle, or he's having this kind of dress. They know exactly, okay, so this mantra can be used for this and this and this. This is what it will do.
Did the deities come first or the mantras?
Oh, did the deities come first or the mantras? My presumption is the deities came first, right? Because the mantras are to specifically get into that vibe. And so my presumption is the deities have always been there since the start of time. And you can say this with any pagan religion. That's why I've got an opinion on this, right? Is in my animistic paganism look on the world and the universe, you would always say that anything that has human interaction came after the fact of deities. They might turn around and say I'm wrong here, and that's why I'm here, to learn and educate. But that's my perceived thought on it.
So the thing is, the mantra is the deity.
Ah, okay.
It is the energy. And the forms is what was revealed to the rishis. That's how they depicted it. But basically, because they say the devatas, they have a mantra sharira. Their body is the mantra. And in the Vedas, there is a nice story also where at some point they covered themselves with chandas, with the rhythm for the Vedic mantras, the intonation, because they wanted to hide from death. But then death is very smart. But the point there is that if you don't know the proper intonation, pronunciation, you cannot see the devata. That makes it complete. So the mantra.
So I couldn't just go ahead and do a mantra then because I've got an English accent. It just wouldn't work, right? Like I have to know the pronunciation for everything. It would be nice to start with Sanatana Dharma, just knowing how to pronounce that properly, right?
Yes, the pronunciation has to be proper. The intonation has to be proper. Then you get access to those energies. But then in the West, I tell people, so there are these different energies and we can use it for different purposes. And the beauty is that then usually one of the mantras that I feel is both very accessible and at the same time which is very potent is Om Namah Shivaya. So I explain to them some of the benefits of the mantra, how they can chant it, and then we chant together 108 times. Actually,
so I do yoga, not all the time. My wife does a lot more yoga than I do. And I've been doing it for quite a while, actually. I've been doing it since 2015, on and off, right? There's some times where I go through long periods where I don't do it. But I've been to like yoga festivals and stuff like that. And I went to one in Vermont called Wanderlust, which was amazing. And we met these people, this guy who makes music called MC Yogi. And that chant, that mantra was something they were doing there. And that's where I started to hear this stuff before and be like, all right, what's Hinduism? Like I'm doing yoga, which is part of it. But what's going on here? Like what extra is, going around that, that vibe?
Make them do that. And then...
Can you talk about the mantra?
Yeah. But then they get the experience. It's amazing. So what I usually explain to them is that, okay, why this mantra is so useful. And I go a little bit into Ayurveda, into Jyotish, into Vastu Shastra, because Na, Ma, Shi, Va, these 5 sounds are connected to the 5 aspects of Shiva that are known as the Pancha Brahma, his 5 faces. And these 5 forms of Shiva, they are called Sadyojata, Vamadeva, Aghora, Tatpurusha, and Ishana. Now, each of these aspects of Lord Shiva governs one of the elements, the Pancha Mahabhuta.
It's interesting that he was going earlier saying that they have to put a face to these mantras, and yet he's putting it on the video here for people like us watching this. Isn't that ironic?
This creation is made up of. So I tell them that from the Vedic perspective, one way to look at this creation is that it is made up of these 5 elements in subtle form, combinations, permutations, including our body and mind. And these forms of Shiva are the Adhishtata, the ones that rule it. So through this mantra, what we do, we invoke these different aspects of Shiva, their blessing, who govern these elements to balance it. And we add Om. Om is the sound of creation, the vibration of consciousness itself. So then you align those 5 elements with consciousness, it brings a harmony. And why is that so useful? Because practically speaking, if you look from an Ayurveda perspective, our body and mind is made up of these 5 elements, different combination, permutation. If you go to a good Ayurvedic doctor, they can tell you about any of your health conditions or problems or imbalance, that, okay, this is an imbalance of these elements. And through this diet, through these lifestyle changes, through these treatments, we can balance them and then you are healthy. That is how you bring the health back. And we look differently because that combination is slightly different. We are a different cocktail. So you're born with a Prakriti, with a certain constitution. And when you are in that balanced state, that is when you're healthy, when you're most effective, creative, peaceful.
I feel like I need one of these doctors. I need a lot of balancing.
So we are all different. Now, if you look from a Jyotish perspective also, our chart is different. And a very good Jyotishi can look at your chart without even meeting you. Like, I can send him your chart. He has not met you. He doesn't know who you are. Based on that, he will tell you exactly what your Ayurvedic Prakriti is, your constitution. That, okay, maybe you are Pitta Kapha Prakriti, for example, and there may even be this imbalance right now, or you've had this and this problem. Why? Because when you were born, the way those planets stood in the sky was an indication of the quality of time itself at that point, which made a certain combination of these elements possible. And that has the effects that you will have this kind of body type, this kind of tendencies, whether it's physical, mental, emotional. But that way it's all connected. So from a Jyotish perspective, if you look at...
I don't get that though, because does that mean like if someone was born at the exact same time as another person, that they're the same kind of person? Like, I don't get that in that sense. Someone can probably explain that better to me.
At the Navagraha, the 9 heavenly bodies, you look at the zodiac signs, the rashis, the nakshatras, the stars. If you go a little deeper, it can all be brought down to those 5 elements. Different planets are connected to different elements, different aspects of those elements. So when you look at today, you will see, okay, there's all these things happening. And what is the final result? That it has the impact that time has on these elements right now. But we are experiencing that differently. You may be having a good time, I may be having a not so good time. But time is the same, no? Right now, the sun is in this place, the moon is in that place. So why are we having a different experience? Because you have your own constitution. You have your own karmic package of how these 5 elements are present in you. So if you have less fire in you, for example, and right now that fire is becoming stronger because of the effect of time, you may have more energy, you will feel better, you're more healthy, you're more dynamic. But if I already had a lot of fire, I'm a very pitta person maybe, and then that fire increases, I get burnout or I get really angry. So
again, like, I don't really understand. I know what he's saying, but I don't understand how that works, because if there was someone who has the same cocktail, does every single person have a different cocktail in that sense? You know? Like, that confuses me, that point of it. Because I feel like that all of a sudden, does that take away individuality in some way? Or does that only add to it? Because there's no one person that can have the same. What about twins? You know?
You're all unique. You have your own unique filter or your own unique combination of these 5 elements. So, I mean, I'm doing it in a nutshell now. So I explain to people that, so if you want to improve your health, physical, mental, emotional, there are many ways to balance those elements. One of the easiest is this mantra. Because that is what it does. If you want to improve the quality of your time, maybe right now you're going through a difficult time. Karmically, one of the best remedies from a Jyotish perspective is this mantra, Om Namah Shivaya. Even if you look at the space, when we talk about Vastu Shastra or Feng Shui, an expert will come and you say, okay, maybe my office, we keep having conflicts or some accidents, or people keep falling sick, or they're making a mess of things. Or maybe at home there's some issues. And you call an expert and they will look at it and they will see, okay, how are those 5 elements present here? Okay, maybe there's a washroom there, so that is water element, or in the northeast there is a puja place, or they look at all these things and they say, okay, based on that, what is the sum total, what is happening here? The energy may be flowing properly or not. And they may suggest, if you break a wall here and make a door, or if the entrance of your house is from that place, or if you make your bedroom in that corner, it will be better for you. There are some principles like that.
Interesting.
So that energy flows more properly. And
so all of a sudden they can come in and be an interior designer in a way, couldn't they? I wonder if someone could help with mine. I need some help, guys. I need to speak to these people.
you can use those elements to support your cause. Like you want to be maybe more healthy or more energetic, or... So again, it's those same 5 elements. But that is why if you have a good expert to look at your house, or because people, their standard principles, you can go online. Okay, puja place should be in the northeast, whatever. Bedroom should be in that place. Kitchen should be in that corner. But this is the general stuff. Then you're not taking into consideration your unique package, because you are living there. So if you say Ranveer has he needs some more fire element, for you it may be very good to have your bedroom in the place where the fire element is stronger, because that means in the morning you wake up more energetic. Or if that is your workplace, whole day you'll be much more productive.
It almost seems like you'd never get anything right, though. Like, because there's multiple people living in houses, not just one person, who all have a different cocktail of the 5 elements, right? And so a house can't be designed just for a family. It has to be designed for an individual. And so maybe they would have to do some sort of like generic version of it, right? I don't know.
While for another person who already has a lot of fire, you stay away from there, because there if you go and sit and work, you'll keep getting angry at people. Too much fire. So it's very specific, it's very personal. But the beauty is then in such a complicated thing, if you want to balance the effect of the place, this is one of the best mantras. You travel a lot, maybe. I travel a lot, definitely. You stay in so many places, whether it's a hotel or this or that. Sometimes it may be a 5-star hotel, but the vibe is not great. I'm sure you've had this experience, no? You go to bed, you have all weird dreams. You can't help it, because who knows what has happened there or what kind of place. Some places you go, you feel so nice. Say maybe you visited some ashram somewhere, or some temple or some church, and you just sit and you feel so peaceful. Or just a nice cabin in the woods, who knows. So place has an impact. But then what do you...
That's true. I definitely vibe with that quite a lot. You go to some places, even though they're supposed to be amazing, you're a bit like, I don't know how I feel about this. And then you go to really simple places or somewhere different, and you're like, oh my God, I love it here. I don't want to leave. Like I've done that multiple times.
You do. If you're somewhere where it's not great, maybe you can't change it. You have a mantra, So I give people this like an overview, and then I say, now let's experience. And you won't believe, just people who have never done anything with any of this, you make them chant Om Namah Shivaya 108 times with the eyes closed. We do it together. Then I guide a short meditation after that. People come up and share such profound experiences. And that is something, that I really feel I've seen the same, whether it is with meditation, whether it is with yoga. This is really something that is...
Surely 108 times, surely your throat starts hurting after that, right? Like, I feel like I'm going to have to try it and come back with my experience. Although I can't pronounce it properly, so I'd have to learn that first.
For everybody, it's not about that you have to believe in it. This is how it works. This is how mind works. This is how consciousness works, how the body works. And that way, there are no barriers. We've had people coming to, say, in our ashrams, say in Bangalore, our Art of Living ashram, and other places, sometimes we have a Rudrabhishek, for example, or Shivaratri celebration, Navaratri celebration. People come from all over the world, thousands of people, from Russia, Mongolia, US, South America, Africa, Europe. These people don't know Sanskrit. Forget about Vedic Sanskrit. Some of them don't even know English. Hindi, definitely not. They come, they sit there, they close their eyes, they listen to the chanting. Now we have the Pandits chant the mantras, and they go into deep meditation. And
So they're saying that this mantra is almost universal, and it doesn't matter where you're from, what your language is, what your background is, that this mantra itself resonates with everyone, which is an interesting thing because, again, like I specifically, I wonder if I can find pictures, went to this yoga festival a long time ago, 2016, I think this yoga festival was. It's ironic because me and my wife both say this, that yoga festival was the best holiday we've ever been on in our lives, like ever. Let me see if I can find it. And there was a massive tent, and in that tent is where we learn that mantra, or where we heard it for the first time. I've got it here. Gotta look so young in it. There's a picture. This is me and my wife and MC Yoga and his Yogi Miss after the actual event. And again, we didn't know much about it. That was the stage where it was going on. I got quite a few pictures of it. And we still say today that it was one of the best experiences we've ever had. There's me walking out after it with a massive grin on my face. Super happy. Long time ago. 6 years ago. Holy shit. Oh, no, it's not. 2008. Yeah, 6 years ago. No, 2016. That's 8 years ago. Oh, my God. 8 years ago. And so if I heard that chant for the first time, I don't think they did it 108 times. But if I heard, sorry, not chant, mantra. If I heard that mantra for the first time and I felt that happy, then maybe there is something to it.
I remember for me, it was the same. The first time I came there, this was in 2004, first time I came to Bangalore. And there every Monday we have a Rudrabhishek. So they chant the Rudram, Namakam, Chamakam mantras and all of that. I just closed my eyes for a moment and for half an hour I was gone. So these mantras, that sound vibration has that effect. You don't have to understand it, but it puts you in a deep state of meditation. It takes you to higher states of consciousness, which doesn't happen with other things. You can put Michael Jackson, Honey Singh, Britney Spears, Justin Bieber, whatever you want. You put it nicely, loudly, close your eyes and sit. You don't go into meditation. Something else may happen, but so there is something, about this. And there are many things, but that has made me fall so much in love. Not just that, also that part recognition, but this ancient knowledge and this wisdom, whether we call it Sanatana Dharma or the Vedic tradition, or it has so much power. And I've seen that also when you want to learn these things, because there may be many people who are keen to learn, many are seeking. I've seen whether it is Jyotish, astrology, whether it is Ayurveda, whether it is knowledge of yoga, of Vedanta, Upanishads, or anything. If you have a proper teacher like a guru, an acharya, and you have a parampara, the tradition, that again takes it to a very different level.
It's almost as if something like this, you have to experience it, right? Like, it's hard to believe this stuff. Like, if I showed this to my parents, they'd just be like, not interested. But if I tell them that, look, I went to this yoga festival back in 2016 and it was the best holiday I've ever been on in my life, ever, to this day still. And that moment in the tent was very, very special. They'd be like, oh, cool, it was a cool experience. But I was like, if I turn around and say, yeah, but it was because we said a certain mantra, they'd be a bit like, eh. And I guess that's just the Western mind of not really... In the West, we've been beaten... A little bit of a history lesson here. In England has been invaded so many times that the original Celtic, well, not even Celtic, but Druidic or neo-pagan, sorry, I keep putting out words that are not correct, old pagan kind of views here, and I'm talking pre-Roman thoughts, right? That type of paganism or animism, it could have been animism, was invaded by the Romans, it was invaded by the Celts, was invaded by the Anglo-Saxons, it was invaded by the Norse, it was invaded by the Normans, and every time these people came in and took over, they would either adopt certain things and destroy certain things. You've heard about the Romans that basically killed off all the Druids. We don't know who built Stonehenge. And so it's almost as if Hinduism is if in the UK we still had them beliefs, same beliefs of the people who built Stonehenge and stuff like that. If we still had them beliefs, it's almost as if people like my parents might actually start understanding this stuff, because this is, the texts are like, what, 5,000 years old for this stuff? And that was only when they started writing it down. So presumably this religion is tens of thousands of years old, right? Which aligns with, pre-Roman Britain, right? The times of, what's the name, Boudica and stuff like that, when it was tribes living in England, right? Their thought process might have been developed over thousands and thousands and thousands of years, and then within one invasion of Romans, and then the second invasion of the Anglo-Saxons and the Celts, the third invasion of, the Norse, and the fourth of the Normans, like, all them beliefs and them thoughts just disappear. The Christians come in and take everything away, Some stuff's adopted, right? That's why you get like Celtic Christianism. But a lot of stuff is just wiped out. And so what would our beliefs and what would our perception on stuff like Hinduism be if we still had that old indigenous knowledge before it was wiped out through invasions? And that, I think that brain, like that type of brain, is the one that's more understanding of stuff like this. And so for people who don't understand it, the only way to understand it would be experience. And for me, all this other stuff he's talking about that I haven't experienced before, I would have to experience it before I believe it. Does that make sense?
Because I've seen that this knowledge is so vast that, one, you need all the help you can get. But when there is a blessing of a parampara behind it, when the guru is there or a lineage of gurus is there, that will carry you. And I've seen, because I meet so many people, and sometimes they ask me, we have a conversation, how in such few years you have learned so many things. Many things, even I don't know where it came from. Like you said, something will open up, but I've seen that when that parampara is there behind it, that really makes a difference. And if you see the scriptures, everywhere they say the same thing: learn this from a guru, learn this from a teacher, because they've only put some of the things. They don't put all the things. Some things you have to get through that, but it's not just the knowledge, it's the consciousness behind it that works. When someone is giving you the knowledge from their own experience, then it hits a very different chord. So, yeah.
Interesting.
I've spoken about this on the show earlier, but the first time I sat for an Om chanting meditation. Okay, so when you say the word Om, it has an impact on the environment, but it especially has an impact on your own body, on your mind, your throat box, your voice box, your soul. Eventually, and this is very Indian urban perspective.
He's not wrong there. Like, with going to yoga quite a lot, I've been to many different yoga studios all around America and England. Well, I've only been to one in England, but all around America. Like, there's a lot of them that do start or end with the Om mantra. And it does feel weird. Like, as someone who grew, I was in the military, I grew up in Britain, atheist. Like, it's almost as if it's awkward for you to do something like that. Like, you feel awkward or you feel silly in a way. But then when you've done it a few times, you're like, oh, okay. Like, oh, it kind of feels good, actually. Do you know what I mean?
You begin to open yourself up to mantras like Om Namah Shivaya. Now imagine if saying Om loudly has this kind of an impact on the environment. If you're saying it silently, what kind of impact is it having on your internal environment? That's something you figure only through experience. Which is why, again, if you try finding the limitation in mantras, you'll become the limitation yourself. Just flow with it. Execute, experience it, and then come to your own conclusions.
But Om, there is something interesting about Om, because especially when we talk about the Om Namah Shivaya, like
this is a full podcast, by the way, but there's only like a minute left of this. And so if you want to watch the full podcast, you're going to have to go over to their channel.
The Panchakshari Nama Shivaya. This is the what known as the Panchakshari. It is a mantra with 5 aksharas. And then usually we add Om to it. But then Om itself is called the Sukshma Panchakshari. It also has 5 parts. So from Shiva, Lord Shiva, it said first Om came. He came, that it's one of his forms, that pure vibration, that pure consciousness. So you have the A, U, the Ma sound, and then there is the Nada and the Bindu. This is a bit technical for people, but there's 5 parts to it. But then they say that if you do the japa of Om, especially the mental japa, this is actually only recommended for people who are really ready to leave everything, including their body. So they say for
Kind of like a psychedelic thing then?
anybody who is living, the mental japa of Om, 2-3 times is okay. But like proper japa, it's actually not recommended. They say you do Om Namah Shivaya. Because that, they say it will cut everything. So not just your worldly stuff, but everything, your body. And the thing is, you still need to eat, no? And I'm sure you want to eat at least something. So it's interesting, but it also shows how powerful, how powerful.
If you enjoy
I feel like there is so much I just don't know and don't understand. It would start with some of the books I've got. I've got the Bhagavad Gita down here. I've actually also got a book by Sadhguru, which is Karma, down there as well, which might be another one for me to read. Yeah, this is a journey that, it's going to take a while for me to understand a lot of this stuff. This channel is dedicated to learning and growing spiritually, learning about different people, different thoughts. And so if you're interested in that, please subscribe. It will help a bunch. It'll help me understand if you want this channel to keep going, whether it's a cool little idea or whether it's just something that's passing and going by. So yeah, subscribe. I'll leave a link down below to the original video. Any other questions? I was saying, if you've got answers for them, pop them down in the comments. I'm still here to learn where I should start for books. I'm going to do a bit more learning and research for that. So yeah, I'm excited for this. I don't know how many videos I'm going to do per week. Again, this is new. On my main channel, I do one every weekday. So 5 videos a week. If you want to see that, like this video, subscribe. Let me know in the comments. I want to see 5 videos a week because I will do it. I will do it. If the desire for it and the need for it is there, I will do it. All right, guys? Until next time, I love you all. Goodbye.